Up next, we have entrepreneur, best-selling author. She is the CEO and co-founder of a quantum lifestyle consulting firm, the Bliss Factor. She has been featured on many news programs and in magazines. She is also founder and CEO of Lotus Rising International, a nonprofit organization that advocates the well-being of children caught up in sex slavery and organ harvesting. I'd like to welcome Maria Aparis to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yep, it's nice to have you on finally. So how are things? We were talking a little bit off air. How are things out there in California as far as the wildfires go and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, it's a challenge. It's pretty smoky. It's not the healthiest air to be out in right now, so we're just kind of laying low as much as possible, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, that is a challenge. So you're definitely got a lot going on these days. I guess just I'd like to start with maybe what is Bliss Quantum Revolution? What is that? What is that?
So the bliss factor is, I call it my quantum evolution because I have three pillars that make up everyone's ability to heal. And our bodies have this really incredible power to heal itself when it's given the right tools and the environment. And so I basically brought everything together of what I used to heal myself from a really bad challenge of Hashimoto's disease. And so I went to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, and kept getting the runaround with pharma and all that stuff. And it was just, it was, I was going so downhill so fast that I had to really just take a step back and stop everything. And what really changed the transformation, or made the transformation for myself, was this four pillars that actually came together. And they consist of the physical body, the emotional attachment to something or someone, and your mindset, and then your soul spiritual connection to universe, source, energy, whatever that is for you. So in my opinion, I couldn't have one without the other. And you could have a great physical body, but if your emotional attachment is super negative and it goes down that road, then you're going to keep drawing those things into your life. You're going to keep attracting those things into your life. So I started my consulting firm to guide clients through their radical transformation to achieve optimum health, wealth, and success. And it's an actual happiness, because what I've discovered along the way is that people are just living a life that has no fulfillment for them, and it becomes mundane. It's like, let me just get through this day, which becomes, let me just get through this week, which becomes, let me just get through this month and this year, and then all of a sudden, it's time to die. And
Right.
I think, we're here, we're brought to this planet for a divine purpose, and we each have unique gifts. And if we are told to suppress those gifts, go to school, go get a job, work 9 to 5 in a cubicle, do all these things that fit into a society, then we're ultimately giving up our ability to really live a maximum life. And everything does eventually become mundane. And then what's the first thing that goes? It's our health. And then if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so I really dive in with my clients, and we cultivate this tribal community of supporting your health by eating nutritious, nutrient dense foods,
Mhm.
and getting rid of the toxins that are in our environment, what we clean with, what we put on our bodies, what we do the laundry with. All of this gets thrown back into the planet, but it also gets absorbed into our skin, into our bodies. And so we clean that all up, and then we go back into the energy of the emotional attachment. what caused this to begin with in the first place. Like for me, it was an emotional attachment that I had from when somebody said something to me, and I just took it on energetically. I took it on physically, and it got caught in my throat, in my chakra of communication.
Mhm.
And so I developed a tumor in my throat. I just, I felt like I lost my ability to speak my truth, to live my truth.
It's interesting.
And it got super suppressed. And when I let all that, first of all, when I discovered that that's what it was, I was like, oh my God, why am I holding on to that energy? And I didn't even know that it was there, right? Because it was so long ago in my life. And so I let it go, and I held that tumor in my throat every single day. And I gave it so much love and so much gratitude. And I just thanked it for being a teacher for me. And 6 months, somewhere between 3 months and 6 months, it went away. And I went back to get an MRI and check it. And my doctors were like, well, I don't know what you did, but it's not there anymore. And so if I had listened to the doctor's diagnosis, I would have had to have gone through medical treatments for years, been on pharmaceuticals for years, but there was a spark inside of me, which was my directed mindset that said, I do not resonate with dis-ease. I don't resonate with having to live a life like this.
Right.
And so I set the course in my mind that that was not going to be the way that I would live the rest of my life. I had
That
too much
is
that I wanted to get done.
that is an amazing story. That's something I've heard over, even with this guy Joe Dispenza, I think is his name.
Yes, yes.
Um,
I discovered him a couple years ago.
that is
Yeah,
it is amazing work that, well, it seems like, you're doing similar work, that the kind of stuff that he's doing. And it really fascinates me because, like I was telling you off air, I've been diabetic for 5 years, and I was able to control it there for about 3 years off of insulin just through diet. But it kind of took a turn, and partially my fault, not for following through. Got a little overconfident on some things, and changed up some things. But and I can't. I'm having trouble getting back. But this is the kind of stuff that, that it gets my interest, and I think it's good for people to hear that, there's other more natural ways to go about healing, and doing things to, to become a healthier, better you.
the thing with diabetes, I don't know if you follow. So my toolkit is really vast. I don't feel like there's a one size fits all for anybody. So I look at all different kinds of aspects on how we can hone in on anyone's particular challenge, right? So for diabetes, Carolyn Miss specifically goes into um, how diabetes is developed by not recognizing or connecting with the sweetness in life. It's like, diabetics, not all, but you may want to go look at back at your connection or your emotional attachment to not feeling that.
That is very beautifully put, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And that was right before you touched on that. I was actually going to mention that what you were saying earlier almost seems as though a lot of these health problems, they begin to manifest more on an emotional side of things first, right? Before
Absolutely.
physical. And
Yeah, and that's part
that's
of what
interesting.
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just going to say, like, a part, like I specifically wrote about this in my book, is that when we take back the power that we created our own dis-ease, I mean, you'll launch your health, because it's when we take that victimization route of, oh, this happened to me and that happened to me and that happened to me. If you can change your perspective and say, and go back, and whatever situation happened, and and learn your greatest lessons of life from the people that quote unquote did you wrong, then you'll, like I said, you'll launch your health. Because it all comes to the connection that we're here for a divine reason. We're here for a divine purpose, right? We all have a gift to give.
That's right.
And those people that came into our lives that taught us these particular lessons, whether they sucked or not, if we can go back and learn that lesson, thank our teacher and let it go, then we're creating in this open path of gratitude and taking responsibility for our health and everything that goes on from that moment on.
That's fascinating. What is your background? I mean, why are you so inspired to help others? And where does this knowledge come from?
So it really was by accident, I would say. I grew up in the entertainment industry, and so I did my first commercial at 12, and I thought that was my path. I thought that was going to be, whatever it was going to be. And I was on set one day, and this friend of mine was getting a massage, and the person who showed up was just, totally discombobulated, just unprofessional. And I was like, I think that there's a way to do this that's different. And so I took that divine inspiration, and I went down this other road. I started a company called Spa on Location, and I turned a 36-foot RV into a spa. And I went down to, I mean, it was gorgeous. It was all custom on the inside, and really top of the line. And I made contracts with like Universal, Sony, Paramount, Warner, and took the spa basically to the client at the
That's
studio.
impressive. Yeah, cool. Very
And
cool.
so that just like took off like crazy. And so when I was developing this concept, I was like, well, I should go to massage school because I don't want somebody to know more about my business than I do. So I worked on the business during the day and then went to massage school at night. And then I actually kind of liked it. I liked that kind of, healing aspect. And so later I went to Kundalini yoga school. Every year I treat myself to something that is some kind of teaching or improvement in my life somehow, whether it's a coaching experience or a class or certification. So over these last 20 years, I've gained like almost every tool that you can imagine, from like crystals and gemstone healing to feng shui certification to Kundalini yoga instructor to intuitive healer
That's
to
cool.
belief system clearing. Anything that I find that has just kind of like a different perspective, I'll just treat myself to that knowledge and take it in as part of my toolkit. And so it all, and I feel like, and I do, and I'm like an extensive reader, as you can see from behind me. So I can read very quickly and just grasp this information. Like the Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dying is phenomenal,
That's a great book, by the way.
isn't it?
If you ever want to
And
become enlightened, that's the book.
yes, and I think that my first experience in towards enlightenment, in my path to enlightenment, not to say that I'm fully, but is
Right.
the autobiography of a yogi, by Paramahansa Yogananda. Like all of these
Nice.
books, I just seem to like just geek out on. I mean, I'm like fully absorbed into all of these books, and
Right.
The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Matrix by Greg Braden. I mean, it's just like all of these books I'm just constantly, absorbing, and they all inspired me to write my journey on how you can go from the sickest of the sickest and go through that journey if you really want to dive in. I mean, it takes work, and it takes ugly work, because you really have to get into your whole emotional state and being of, it's my fault that this
Right.
happened. It's my fault that I took this on.
That's interesting.
And and I don't really want to say fault, but it's my
No,
responsibility.
it's good to, I think you're right on. I mean, I think you should take responsibility for it. And still, like you said, stop playing the victim, and that's interesting. Um, so what are some other more important aspects of health? You mentioned the four pillars of like maintaining a healthy lifestyle. I mean, obviously it's balance, right? Beliefs, attitude, diet. What are some important aspects to you?
So physically, we want to take out anything that has to do with pesticides, herbicides. We want to go as gluten-free as possible. People who say, "Oh, I'm not gluten intolerant," yes, you are. It is what I discovered is that all disease will start in the gut and the gut lining, and this glyphosate will deteriorate your gut lining, and that's just wreaking havoc on your whole body. So your physical body is really what we have the most control over first, right? We can change immediately what we put on and in our body. So that's kind of like the easiest go-to that I start with.
But
Um,
it's important to do your research though, right? I mean, because there's a lot of things out there. You think you're doing the right thing, and just by something as simple as the type of deodorant or toothpaste you use can mess you up.
yes, I mean I stay away from dairy, gluten, eggs, nightshades, peppers, anything that's too spicy because it will cause the leaky gut syndrome to flare up. And so I'm really super careful about what I put on and in my body. So that's like the first element. The second element is to really surround yourself with positivity. It's not to say, you're taking the Pollyanna approach to life, but it's saying like, this no longer resonates with me. This, like, I don't watch the news. We don't even have like news channels. We figure if anything needs to be, if we need to hear about anything, we'll find out about it one way or another. And so we're not on Facebook. We're not on any of these things that just suck the life out of you, right? We really want to maintain like positivity and be around people that are positive. Like it, I don't know who said it or who made it up or whatever, but you are the five people that you spend the most time with. And so, do you remember who said that? Because I
I
can't
don't,
remember,
but
but
that's
you've heard it
interesting.
before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so we really are choosy about who we spend our time with because if they're energy suckers or super negative, like we don't want that. We want to not only be that for ourselves to elevate and inspire ourselves in the way that we live our life, but we want to be able to hold that space for the people that we get to spend time with. And so we want to be in a space that's constantly uplifting, elevating, inspiring, and being leading by example, basically.
So I'm currently like in the process of switching over to an all raw diet. What are the importance of maybe organic foods to, you can tell the listeners, and maybe even the raw food diet?
Well, I did raw food for 100% for about 9 months. And I would say, like you said earlier, it's all about balance. So I would really look into um, how you digest and how you absorb your nutrients. Because for me, the raw diet was not good. 100%. It's about for me about 30% good for me, because I wasn't able to absorb the nutrients because the way I was eating so many greens and so many vegetables that weren't breaking down in my gut, and so I wasn't absorbing any nutrients that you would think, oh my gosh, I'm filling my body with this nutrients dense food, this
Right.
plant-based food, but I couldn't break it down. So with diabetes, you're already experiencing leaky gut syndrome. So really, the things that I would look at is bone broth and things that are going to nurture your gut and eliminate the things like the nightshades, the dairy, um, eggs, and really I don't want to say not do raw, but if you're gonna do raw, do like your vegetables and your do your vegetables at least steamed a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
help break them down, and then your lettuces, massage them so you break down the enzymes that help you digest. Especially kale and spinach, um, and your mustard
That's
greens, those are
interesting.
really hard on the gut to digest. So get in there and really squish them, almost like they look wilted. But if the more you get in there and like really like squish them and make them juicy, the better it is to digest if you're going to do it that way. Um,
That's a great tip.
yeah, digestive enzymes and probiotics for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about your other side of things on your other business that you have or you've started your foundation. It's what is Lotus Rising International?
So, Lotus Rising International is a nonprofit organization that I formed to advocate for children who have been victimized by sex slavery and the trauma that goes along with that. Um, I I got introduced to the fact that this was even happening a few years ago, and I had no idea, and I had no idea how extensive it was. Um, and I learned that children as young as 3 and 4 years old were being put to work all hours of the day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year until they were too sickly. And then they would be basically split open to harvest their organs and sold in illegal trade. And this is such a dark, dark space that, but I couldn't turn my back on it. And I have no experience, to be blunt, with running a nonprofit organization. So I'm basically called in a village, and I reached out to anyone and everyone who felt like they wanted to be a part of something that really needs to be stopped, like without judgment, because I'm hearing more and more that it's the people that have been victims themselves are typically the people that turn into the predators. So without doing this cycle of, who's to blame and who's this and who's that, I really just want to focus on the children and help with support of the rescues of the children. And but primarily here in the United States, that's taken care of by government agencies. But what we're really falling short of in here, especially in the United States, is the recovery for these children and the reclaiming of how they re-enter into society. And so that's what I'm focusing on a lot here. And so there's programs that offer children in general help with emotional intelligence skills and um, equine therapy and just therapies in general. So I'm kind of that middleman that gets the children from that have been traumatized and victimized into these recovery programs, and kind of vetting these recovery programs so that I know that once the children come from this place, they're not exploited even further in some way, shape, or form. So I vet those programs. And then when the children are turned into young adults, I'm helping them find ways to get back into society by, can we get them a scholarship to, to be an esthetician or hairstylist or bookkeeper or an accountant, or just get their GED if they don't have it. Like, can we get them a scholarship to a college if it's possible? Like, the reentry programs I feel are really lacking here. And that's not to shame or blame anyone. It's to just say we have an opportunity to step up,
Yeah.
and can I do it? And I'll be honest, I sat on the fence for 6, 7 months saying, who am I to possibly to do this? Who am I has no experience in helping children? And I sat with that for a really long time. And I was like, you know what? Who am I not if I don't do this? Who am I if I don't? And so I just thought, universe, I'm just going to go for it. And I may make mistakes along the way, but I'm going to do this in a form of a village gathering, and just to really call upon the experts who know how to do this and say, can we lock arms? Can we join arms? Can we do this together? Can we save the children and change the legacy? Can this be the generation that says this is enough? Can we not do this anymore? It's not, there's some people that say it's a natural thing. It's not a natural thing to take somebody who has no choice, who has no say in the matter, and take that away from them. If you're a consenting adult and that's what you want to do, go for it. But if it's a child who has no voice, no say, no control, it's not okay. And that's what I'm working towards ending. And I feel that if enough people know about this, who don't turn their back on it, who say enough is enough, then yes, we can do this together. And if you want to be a part of this, reach out to me, because like I said, it's new. It's a new form, but we've all got to learn some things somehow all the time.
Mhm.
And, I'll be the first to admit I don't have the path. I'm hoping that we all find the path together.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And I don't think um maybe just because of the lack of media coverage, and there's probably various reasons for that, but I don't think that at least people in the United States, really a lot of people anyway, I'm sure some do, some are awake to this, but a lot of people don't realize how serious or large of a problem this is in our country or in the world. Can you just kind of maybe share some facts or some details into that, to just, is this is a serious problem?
It's a global issue, yes, but some of the most trafficked cities are in the United States, being Atlanta, San Diego, through Mexico. Texas is another one. Um, but it's not just third world countries. And let me just pause for a second to say this. Lotus Rising International is not affiliated with any political party. We have no political agenda whatsoever. And I've even been asked, who are you voting for and all that stuff. I'm like, wait a second. This is about children. This is about the innocence of children. I will say, as the founder and CEO of this corporation, of this nonprofit corporation, we have no political agenda whatsoever, and nor will we ever. We're simply helping children. That being said, the statistics are staggering. I mean, it's like, I think it was like every 10 minutes a child is taken in the United States, and a child goes missing. And what I recently discovered was that if a lot of the children come from foster care. So whether they're taken from the home from a bad situation and put into foster care, and whether they're abused there again, they will typically say, well, screw this, and run away. Life is on the streets is better than this. And so once they're on the street, the predators just like bees to honey go for them and recruit them, and they lure them with gifts, and buying them things that they were never able, and giving them attention. And so once they get them under their manipulation, then they'll say, I need you to do something for me. And so it'll start with like maybe one thing, and then it'll go into, now, and then they also get them hooked on drugs. And so they become complacent. They don't fight back, because now they're under the influence of some substance. And so, and then we in our society see these kids on the side of the street, and we think they're complete degenerates. We have a tendency to judge without even knowing what the situation is. And so, you know, I mean, I've even heard it in my own family, like, you can't give that kid money, don't do that. You don't know where they're going to go. They're probably just going to go get more drugs. It's like, we as a society need to lend a hand, excuse me, versus judging all the time. With If we can just observe with discernment of there's no right or wrong, good or bad here. There's a person obviously suffering in some way, shape, or form. Can we help? And so these kids are out on the street, and if they're arrested again, like say they can't go back to foster care, there's no room for them.
Mm-hmm.
In most cases, if there's no room at their house, they can't go back to their home for whatever circumstances, they can't go back to foster care, they will put them in juvenile detention centers because there's nowhere else to go. So now they're being told you're a criminal. And so in these juvenile detention centers, they'll be, you know, they they can get recruited into a gang. There's more drugs, there's more sex offending happening, there's more, you're not worth anything, there's no value to you, there's just this more of a story. And then they're 18, boom, you're out the door. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to go back to what they know. And like I said, we have to be the generation that says enough. We're not serving our youth, we're not serving these children, and there's an opportunity to do so. And if I can save one child, if I can save as many as possible, like I said, it takes a village, it takes a tribe and a community to do this.
That's beautiful. Well said. I know, we want to get involved. We had talked off air a little bit, but the show wants to kind of get involved and put some links up, and we're going to help spread the word probably on every episode moving forward.
Thank you.
And whatever else we can do in the social media side of things, maybe we can do some advertising for you or something. Just real quick, it says that, you've saved over 367 children and counting. That's a beautiful thing. That must make you feel like you've made the right choice when you were debating for them 6 or 7 months, whether you were going to start the foundation or not, right?
Right. Well, there was an organization that I was working with before, I volunteered with before I started Lotus Rising.
Mm-hmm.
And they do boots on the ground rescue missions in third world countries. And I was able to raise enough funds to support these rescues. And we were hearing as the rescues were happening how many children they were finding. And one of the stories was they were scouting this particular brothel, and they knew that there was roughly between 28 to 30 children in there. And these are typically ex-military, people with some background on how to do all this stuff. I wouldn't presume to even know, and for their safety, I was never ever allowed to really ask very much details about this, about who they were or anything, but they would risk their lives and go in and rescue these children. So in this one particular mission, they knew that they had about 28 girls in there, and they went in and they could only find like 12. And so the girls don't speak English. And so they were, trying to communicate, like they were in a hurry. Where are the other girls? Where are the other girls? And the girls don't understand, right? They're crying, they're hysterical, they're scared. And they don't understand they're being rescued. And so one of them somehow looked towards the kitchen. They pulled back the stove, and there was like this cut wall. And they went into this other room, and there were cages about 14 deep in a row, 3 cages on top with children inside.
Wow.
And the top one was defecating on top of the middle, on top of the bottom. And they were able to cut all the locks, get all the girls. And,
Rough.
These are the stories that I heard in the very beginning. That was like, I can't turn my back on this. And it's ugly, it's dirty, it's dark, and
You
I have to
good.
keep going.
I'm sorry. You had mentioned organ harvesting, and I've talked about this with people before, especially over in China, in some of the camps that they have over there. And people look at me like I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist, but I think there may be some truth to some of this organ harvesting stuff. What are your thoughts on that, and what were you referring to when you were talking about?
So I'm not going to say which country, but I have heard from reliable sources that, again, when they're these children are too sickly to continue to be put to work, they basically split them open and harvest their kidneys, liver, heart, whatever they can get, and they'll sell them to hospitals because there's big money in organ replacements. And I have not seen it personally. Um, I can't say 100% that it's 100% certain, but the reliable sources have no reason to lie to me.
Yeah, that's kind of keeps popping up everywhere though. Reliable sources from this person or that person. It's just after a while, so many people begin to say it. I mean, it just seems like, I mean, it can't be
Well, here's what
fabricated.
you can do. I mean, we all know the truth, right?
Hmm.
Whether we want to turn our back on it or if we're awake to it or not. So all you could do is simply go into a meditative state, clear your mind, and ask if this is true or not. And if it resonates with your body, if your mind and your spirit that it's true, then go with that. Go with your gut, go with your intuition, your instinct, and all of that. If you don't believe it's true, then move on. You know, I can't, again,
It's
I
beautiful.
can't convince people that this is happening,
Right.
and that's not my fight. um I have to focus on the rescue of the children, and the people who want to get into arguments about what's true and not. um we know that children are suffering, we know that's true. We know that sex trafficking is happening, we know that's true. So I'm gonna stay on that, in that lane, and anything that's outside of that lane, and anyone who wants to debate those things, the organ harvesting and all of that, it's not my battle.
Right. Well put. Um, what is some of the donation money put towards? What were the kind of things that you're doing with the donating of the money?
So I spoke about the emotional intelligence camps, the recovery that we're really working on, and I don't know how much therapy really works or what they have access to, um, for this type of trauma. So I really searched out some interesting new ways. I like equine therapy for some. Um, there's a camp that I'm working with. Um, it's an emotional intelligence camp, and the kids, from the second they step off the bus until the time they get back on, it's all experiential learning. And I was able to mentor at one of these camps to observe before I wanted to send somebody there. And I was blown away at the resilience of children when they have the ability to communicate and see that they're not alone. Like I was like, wait a second, these kids are resilient and full of love and full of light despite their circumstances of what they've been through. They
Absolutely.
just need a way to express it. They just need a way to communicate it and get it out so it doesn't fester in their mind and their heart and their spirit. And so I watched these children who were angry and bitter and uncommunicative to each other and themselves, and just withdrawn, and to a place, by the time they got back on the bus, they were singing, they were laughing, they were actually smiling, enjoying themselves. And I was like, wow, this camp can make a massive amount of difference in children's lives. And so it's about $800 per child to send to this camp. But I can't tell you the transformation that is going to be able to take place.
Right.
Um,
Life changing, right?
life-changing, because it takes them out of the victim mentality into that survivor of, yeah, okay, that happened, but my past does not define my future. From this moment on, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm stepping over it, and whatever choices I make for myself from this moment on are mine. And that's where we want to empower these children to get their self-esteem back, and to enable them to live their fulfilled life, to give them an opportunity to do that.
That's
Give them the
beautiful.
tools to do that.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot going for you. I think you found your calling. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Just want to flip back real quick to the Bliss Factor. As far as programming goes, if people need help with that, want to get scheduled, like how long of a schedule, what's the process for that?
So the Bliss Factor program is a 12-month incubator process. And so once I take on a client, we discuss what it is that they want to achieve in that 12 months. Then I really dive into their mind, body, spirit. And I know that sounds cliche, but I really, really find out what really is making them tick in the way that is blocking them from moving forward. And I take all of that information, and along with the path that they want, the things that they want to achieve, and then I reverse engineer it and I customize their program specifically for them. And we meet monthly on a Zoom to go over what they need to accomplish for that month to achieve. And then we meet weekly for accountability sessions to make sure that they are staying on track. And I've had people who have been carrying 300 pounds of weight around that have lost 30 pounds in 5 weeks, just by aligning the 4 pillars that we spoke of. And it's because you can't have one without the other. If your mind is blocking you, it doesn't matter how much physical stuff you do, the weight will either stay on or it'll come back. So we really need to clear. So the Bliss Factor is really you finding your bliss and me helping you just by guiding and facilitating.
That's well said. Sounds like a really good program. 12 months, weekly checkups. That's and it's all I love the whole you're taking the person as the whole aspect. You're not just focusing on exercise, or you're not just focusing on diet, you're not just you're taking the well-rounded individual and trying to heal them all the way around. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the success for that you've had some good feedback from your clients.
It's been phenomenal. I mean, the testimonials that come in on every single time that I get to meet with somebody, it's like, I can't believe that I lost another, so-and-so pounds, or I finally am able to launch my business because I feel like I don't have to have my ducks in order. I don't have to have this done before I get that done. And I had a client who said, my husband and I want to buy a house in the next 5 years. And I was like, why not now? Why not do it now? And she was like, oh no, I can't afford it. And I was like, so you say. And in 3 months, they were in escrow. It's all about shifting
Wow.
and your belief system
Yeah.
and your positivity towards co-creating with universe on what you want to achieve.
Absolutely. I love that. Yep. Well said. Yep. I couldn't agree with you more. What are some upcoming things that you have? What are you currently working on?
One of the things I'm so used to, okay, so I'll break it down. So for Lotus, we're working on sending 20 children minimum to camp, whenever that is. So it was going to be in November, but they had to push it because of COVID. So we don't know if it's going to happen in the spring. We don't know, but we're going to get everything ready so that when we have those funds, then we'll be able to select the children that we can send to that camp, whether it's 20 or more, hopefully more. but a minimum of 20. So that's what we're working on right now for Lotus Rising. We also have some corporate sponsors that are coming in um, that are going to be a part of our just our everyday. They want to give a certain amount of proceeds of their profit to Lotus, and so with that, we're going to continue to just keep building and moving in a way that we can support our children. So that's what I'm working on for that. And then for the Bliss Factor, I'm going to be doing an international retreat sometime when we're able to travel and move around again. We're going to do an international retreat where we can all just come in together and really do that Kundalini yoga and fire up that pranayama and that energetic field and strengthen it and really enforce it to be unbreakable. Because when we can maintain our grace, no matter what's going on outside in the world, that's when we know that we've mastered, right? So when we're in that reactionary state, when someone cuts you off on the freeway and you're like, yeah, and you take out that road rage, that's your reactionary student level, in my opinion, right? But when we're able to look at the situation from behind and say, wow, please bless that person who's in a hurry. I hope their life is okay. I hope their family's okay, right? And just wish them blessings and not judge, right? Just say whatever it is that's causing them to hurry or be in a place where they're completely causing havoc on the freeway, right? We want to take that into a responsive state versus reactionary state. And when we can do that and maintain our grace, then we've reached that mastery level. So my international retreat will be, getting into that mastery level. So that's in the works. And then for me personally, I wanted to do something that was outside of something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, was work with skincare. And so I just recently dove into working with this company, which is so fun to me because for me it's like, oh, I get to go back to my roots of spa parties and skincare and all that stuff. And I know I'm like, everything's so serious, with Lotus
Yeah,
Rising. I
yeah.
just I when somebody presented this opportunity to me, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I really want to do that.
Exactly
I
what you
really
needed,
want
huh?
to just, yeah, I just want to have fun and be creative with being girly. And it sounds so stupid, but I'm having the best time with it. I It's like my own creative outlet, and I am secretly obsessed with skincare that's all natural and doesn't hurt the planet. There's no animal cruelty associated with it, and I don't know. To tell you the truth, Dylan, I just wanted to do something that was just fun.
That
Even though
sounds
I love my job, I love
like
every aspect of what I do, but this is like light.
that's
And
beautiful. I mean, it's important to have fun and enjoy life, right? And you got to have that.
it is. And so, yeah, thanks for that. I'm just, my husband was like, you know what? It's probably a good idea because a lot of what I do can be like, ugh, so heart wrenching. And then I get to go like do a new scrub, just like, okay. So
Right.
that's me. I'm secretly obsessed with skincare, and
That's awesome.
and I'm gonna own that in this podcast. So
That's awesome. Well, I tell you what, you're definitely very wise, almost as if a lot of the information's coming directly from source when it comes to some of this stuff. Um, where can we find, the great work that you're doing and like Lotus Rising and things like that? Where can we get a hold of that? Maybe do some donations or anything like that.
sure. Yes, link arms. Let me know if you want to reach out via email. The best place to find me is on the website. My email's on the website, which is lotusrisinginternational.org. And my email's on there. I'd love to hear from you. Um, You'd love to lock arms and link in or lean in and just build this community and tribe because it does take a village. I can't do it on my own and I don't want to. Like I really want us to to band together and change this. For the Bliss Factor, you can go to mariaaparis.com, and it's just my name, and reach out to me there. And you can just send me an email at maria.aparis@yahoo, and send me an email. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to connect and see what we can co-create with universe.
That's beautiful stuff. Hey, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
It's an honor so much to be with somebody who is so open to hear um, just the darkness and be able to hold space for us. So thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.